Well, hello scrappers. Mike here, welcome back to my channel. Now, in a recent video, I did some wet ashing of the tops of Gold Corner BGA chips. And no video in recent memory has stirred up as much controversy and suggestions and comments as that video. And I'm sure it's because the yield I got was a lot lower than we were all expecting, me included. And there were a lot of ideas and suggestions about where I could have lost gold, what I could have done wrong, what I could have done better, what I could have done alternatively. It went on and on. Oh my goodness, such controversy. Well, I think we're going to do it again. And I might incorporate some of you guys' suggestions out there to see if things go a little better. So, we're going to redo the experiment just like before. Going to weigh out 250 grams of chips, just a random mix out of this bag. And I probably have enough in this bag to do at least 2 experiments, maybe one smaller scale one. Getting close here. .246. Come on. 250. Okay, there we go. 250 grams. So we'll get this in the fume hood and we will wet ash it like before. Actually, I'm going to put this in a much bigger beaker because it foams. So I'm going to put those in a bigger beaker. We'll get it in the fume hood. We'll get some concentrated sulfuric acid on it. We'll start the process going. Okay, I've got the chips in one of my big 3-liter beakers. So we're going to address one of the things people said I did wrong, which was not using enough acid. Now I've got this and I've got another full quart, and this is not very much left in this, so I've got plenty of acid this time. Let me start out here by dumping what's left in this one in here. And you know, concentrated sulfuric acid, at least here in the States, can be fairly cheap to come by. But, you know, the cost does start adding up if you have to use large quantities of it. So last time, I just put enough in to barely cover the chips. This time, I'll make sure they're covered pretty good. There's probably, a good centimeter or 2 of acid over the tops of the chips now. So that should be plenty of acid, I'm thinking. And I can always add more. So let's put some heat to it, pretty high heat, and turn on the fume hood, and we'll see what happens as this stuff warms up. Okay, things are warming up. We're starting to get a reaction in there. There's some bubbling going on. The surface is starting to look a little foamy, so things are starting to happen. I'll have to turn the beaker so that you get a better view of what's going on inside and get the writing out of the way for the next segment. Okay, here we go. I turned my back on it for like 3 minutes, and look what happened. You get the lid off. Hopefully that will help prevent the foam from rising further. Help it collapse a little bit, but well, we've definitely got a heck of a reaction going on in there. So we're just gonna let it cook along here and see what happens. Oh yeah, removing the lid seems to have helped. It's about 2 minutes later, the foam's starting to collapse. So that's good. Okay. But there's still lots of bubbling going on in there, so got a good reaction going. We'll see if I wind up with less of that stiff foam in there. Because last time, if you watched the video, I wound up with a really stiff foam on top of all of the IC chip debris. And breaking up and getting rid of that foam and rinsing it out, that was the hard part. So I can see how possibly that was caused by not using enough acid. So hopefully this time we've got enough in there. I guess we'll find out. Okay, the foam has all but totally collapsed and we're starting to get some smoke coming out. I'm going to put the lid back on, try and keep the heat in because I'm thinking that's going to help the reaction. Now if the foam starts rising up again, I'll take the lid back off. But yeah, I want to keep the heat in, and hopefully that will help digest the plastic in there. We'll see how it goes. So I don't know if the mist or steam or smoke that's coming out the lip of the beaker there is showing up on the video or not. It's hard to see on the viewfinder, but we got some pretty good smoke or something coming out of there. So it's cooking. The foam hasn't risen. It's been a few minutes, you know, probably 10-15 minutes, and it's not rising back up. So I assume a lot of that's probably steam, maybe some sulfuric acid vapor, because we are running pretty hot here. I got the hot plate up pretty much to full. So you know, another comment I got a lot in that last video was I just didn't cook it long enough. So we'll cook it long enough this time. Hopefully long enough. Hopefully. I'll cook it longer anyway. It's let's see, what time is it? It's about 1:30 in the afternoon. I'll let this go a few hours anyway on high heat, as long as nothing bad happens, and then shut it down, and it'd probably be dark before it cools off enough to deal with, so I'll probably come out and deal with it again in the morning. But yeah, we'll make sure it cooks for a good long time this time, so we don't have to worry about it being undercooked like some people think it was. Okay, so we got more acid, and we're going to run it for longer, and we'll see how that works. So it's been about another 15 minutes or so, and I've been sitting here watching it through the fume hood doors. There's still a lot of mist or smoke or something coming out, but with all the smoke in there and the debris on the side of the beaker, it's hard to see, but I can see that there's still bubbling going on. So there's still some kind of reaction there. I kind of doubt we've reached the boiling point of sulfuric acid, so we probably still got some sort of reaction going on between the acid and the plastic in there. So yeah, letting this cook a while longer, probably a good idea. And see if we can drive this reaction to completion. I think we're still going to be stuck with a lot of carbon. Hopefully it's just not hard carbon foam like last time. So it's been a couple hours. The smoke coming out's gotten worse. And every once in a while there'd be a big puff of it blow out, like a big bubble or something came up to the surface inside. But at this point I can't see a darn thing going on inside that beaker. There's just, the smoke is too dense and there's just too much stuff spattered on the side of it. It's just, can't see anything. So, and then I think maybe we got some condensation running down the side of the beaker, out of the lip, and then vaporizing when it hits the burner down there, because I'm starting to see a little bit of smoke coming off of inside the Corningware dish there. I haven't caught a drop running down there, but I'm thinking that must be what's happening. I'm going to let it go a little while longer, just to make sure it did get cooked long enough, okay? And then I'm going to shut it down and let it cool off. Well, it's been about another 20 minutes. I'm thinking that those puffs I see come out are when drops of condensate on the watch glass fall down into the hot liquid and vaporize. So that's what I think I'm seeing there. I don't really, I kind of doubt there's really much bubbling going on in there anymore. So I'm going to be out here for about another half hour or so at least, so I think I'm going to let it run at least that much longer before turning it off. It is getting late in the afternoon, and I will need to shut it down soon. Okay, this stuff's been cooking on high for close to 4 hours since I last saw any activity in there. Now there's still steam coming out. I don't know if that's steam or if that's sulfuric acid fumes. I don't know. But it doesn't seem to be stopping, and this can't go on all night. It's getting late in the afternoon. I am going to turn this off and let it cool down and come out tomorrow morning, and we'll see what fresh hell I have created in this beaker. Okay? See you in the morning. Okay, it's the next morning. Let's see what I've created here. if I can show you what's going on in here or not. Yeah. Let's see what this foam is like here. Oh, it's just like last time. It's a hard foam. You know, it's not soft. So this is exactly what I had last time. So this was the trouble I had. So, ugh, yuck. So, how do I get past this issue? So I've tried more acid, I've tried cooking it longer, and we're still stuck at this point with our gold somewhere inside this nasty stiff foam. One thing I can try, I can put yet more acid on it and I can cook it longer. Okay? One fella suggested piranha solution. I'm a little reluctant to do that. I actually have some 30% hydrogen peroxide. There's a lot of carbon in here. And adding hydrogen peroxide to this is pretty much like making a bomb at this point, because all that carbon could decide to oxidize rapidly. We're talking milliseconds. So I'm reluctant to do that. What I think I'm going to try is I'm just going to add a little more drain opener to it, put it back on the heat, and see if I can get the lid off. Suddenly, there we go. Suddenly the cap didn't want to come off. See if we can get this to further digest. So I'll put in another healthy shot of acid there. Brought the acid level up to about here. The foam, the hard, sticky foam, is now under the acid level. So I'm going to turn this back on. High heat. And clean up some of the spatter over here. And get the fume hood going, and we'll let it cook and see what happens. I got time. We can run this experiment for a few days and see what happens. Yeah, well, we'll see about the piranha solution. Like I said, I'm reluctant to do that. We may try it on a small scale, but I'm not sure I want to dump a lot of hydrogen peroxide in there with all that free carbon and heat it up. That sounds like a good way to die to me. So, okay, we'll let this get warm and see what happens. Well, this has had a chance to warm up quite a bit. It's on high again. I see a little bit of bubbling going on in there, but nothing really significant yet. No smoke or steam yet. It's probably been a half hour or 40 minutes. But I'll let it continue to cook and we'll see what happens. Alright? Well, after another hour or so, it looks like we've reached the smoke point again. Got smoke coming out the spout of the beaker there. And again, the smoke is so thick inside I can't see what's going on. There was a little bit of bubbling going on inside before the smoke got thick. So, not sure what's going on with that. But we're just going to let it cook. Going to make sure it's not an issue of not enough acid, not enough cooking time. Okay? So we're going to let it cook for another hour or so, and then see what we got. We're going to probe around inside with a long stir rod and see if the stiff, thick foam has broken down any or not. If not, we'll move on to trying something else. Okay, this has been on high now for, probably 3-4 hours. I've been doing something else. Let's have a look, see if the situation has improved any. Ooh, the wind's blowing the fumes out. Not really. Not really. Woo. Nasty. Yeah, those are some nasty fumes. So the situation really hasn't improved. I still feel hard foam in there. I'm sure it's carbon foam. So I had a thought. Tell me if you think it's viable or crazy. I thought that maybe they may have changed the formula for making the IC chips. But maybe they've changed the formula of the plastic they're made from, which is why I'm getting this foam problem, this hard, dense foam problem, which I don't remember ever having. Admittedly, I haven't done this very many times, but I don't see other people having this problem either. It's a hard, dense carbon foam in there. It's not dissolving with more acid and more time on high heat, okay? So there's this stuff, okay? I got people telling me use piranha solution. Well, I don't know. All that carbon in there may decide it wants to go up in flames as soon as I put some peroxide on it. It is an oxidizer. It is hot. So I don't think I'm going to put piranha solution on it per se. I think what I'm going to do is get a little bit of this stuff in a pipette and dribble it in and see what, if anything, happens, okay? Because I'm starting to get desperate here to get rid of this foam. And desperate times make for sometimes stupid measures. So I don't know how bright this is. Let me open this up. And I am going to... See, I'm a little bit afraid of 30% hydrogen peroxide. I have reason to. I worked in an industry that used it. And although I was an electronic engineer, once you get promoted into management, you basically have to do whatever you have to do, okay? And one day the company decided, we'll send Mike off to auditing school and turn him into an internal auditor. That lasted all of about a year before they went back to doing something else, but still. They sent me to auditing school. I became an internal auditor, and I wound up having to audit the process where we handled the 30% hydrogen peroxide. So I had to read up on it, not only our internal procedures, but like OSHA procedures and just general information on this stuff. It's incredibly dangerous, okay? And our internal processes did not meet OSHA's procedures, I found, and I had to write us up about it. We weren't providing nearly the right type of PPE for our people, or enough PPE, and we were pretty casual about how we use this stuff, even though it's incredibly dangerous. There's a lot of power packed in that 30% hydrogen peroxide. It will mess you up if it gets on you. It can cause fires, explosions, all kinds of stuff. And people have learned the hard way. So rather than dumping a lot of piranha solution on this hot carbon in here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill up a pipette, and I'm wearing my welding gloves too. And I'm just going to reach around behind this plexiglass and drop a little in, and we'll see what happens. I think a lot of people who play around with stuff like piranha solution haven't had my experience dealing with so this is either going to be dramatic or it's going to be anticlimactic. Either there's going to be something amazing happening or there's going to be nothing happening. So far, the first pipette went in and we got nothing. Put a little bit along the side here. Get a lot of steam coming out. There's a lot of boiling going on in there. That acid in there is very hot. It's been on high for hours. It cooked off any moisture that was in there. So that's probably close to 6 milliliters that I put in. Tickling the dragon's tail here, but oh, I don't know if you can hear it spitting when it hits. The sound. You know, technically I shouldn't even be using a plastic pipette to work with this stuff. I know a lot of you guys out there say, oh, don't be a wimp. But you know, I've actually had to look up the regulations on handling it. Learn about accidents with it. yeah, there's some boiling going on in there now. It's probably just boiling because it's hot. Welding glove and a little bit of plexiglass between me and it aren't giving me that wonderful sense of security. Got a fair amount of hydrogen peroxide in there now. I'm sure a lot of it's just boiling off, but don't really want to breathe the vapors either. One more. I will say this, the inside of the beaker's gotten a little bit cleaner. I can kind of see what's going on. I don't know if just water wouldn't have worked this well for that. I'm going to run some down the inside of the beaker here. Now I got it all over my pipette, so I should not put this back in the hydrogen peroxide bottle. Don't want to contaminate it because that will cause problems too. Wind up with your hydrogen peroxide cooking off because it's full of contaminants now. We'll just let this cook for a little bit and see what, if anything, that accomplished. I am not hopeful. Come back and check on it in a bit. Okay, this has had a chance to settle down some. You know, other than cleaning off the inside of the beaker a little bit, I don't know what, if anything, putting that hydrogen peroxide in there accomplished. Well, actually, maybe it did. The foam is not nearly as dense. In fact, I'm not even sure I'd call it foam anymore. Oh, nice. Look at that. Uh-oh. Getting it all over everything. Ooh, that's nasty in there. But yeah. Okay, it's much more liquidy in there. It's a very viscous, thick liquid for sure, but it's much more liquidy than it was. Okay, so that's a good thing. That hard foam was what was killing me before. That's why I had to get the blender out. But yeah, if that foam has been collapsed, and I don't know that just putting water in there would have done it. But I think I might. I survived the first time, right? Why not tickle the dragon's tail again? Maybe I'll put a little bit more in. Let me get a fresh pipette, and we'll see if we can make that liquid down there even less viscous. That would be a beautiful thing. That'll make it easier to separate the gold in the end. Okay, here we go. Ooh, look at the steam coming out of there. And there's some pretty heavy boiling going on. Ooh, look at the steam. I hope that's showing up. Some of that is probably oxygen too, as the hydrogen peroxide breaks down, which is what I'm worried about with all that highly flammable carbon in there and it being so hot. I think a lot of people realize just how much energy there is contained in carbon. Wiping the outside of the pipette before I put it back in the hydrogen peroxide bottle, because because there isn't much that doesn't cause hydrogen peroxide to break down. Now we got a little bit too much on it this time. I'm not even going to try wiping it. So we're just going to leave it at that. Whatever is in there, that's what we got. I'm going to let that calm down a little bit and then try stirring it again and see how viscous it feels. And then I may just call it for today because it's getting late in the afternoon, and we'll come out again tomorrow and see what we got. Hopefully no hard foam this time. Okay, let's give this stuff a stir. See what we got here. Much less viscous. Now I'm not sure that we needed hydrogen peroxide for that. Ordinary water might have done it. I'm certainly not advocating that you use Piranha solution or concentrated hydrogen peroxide while you're doing this. That would be irresponsible. Do it at your own risk. If I were you, I would try water first. It's a lot cheaper. And it might work just as good. Okay, I'm turning this off for now. It's getting late in the afternoon. I'm just going to let this cool down and see what we got in the morning. Again, it's already a 2-day project. Let's see what day 3 brings. Okay, it's the morning of day 3. This looks better than last time, I have to say. Now, I'm not convinced that cooking it longer or adding more acid were the deciding factor. I'm also not convinced that Piranha solution helped. I'm thinking, I mean, there's still some hard stuff in here, but not as bad as it was. I'm thinking that just adding water to this and the violent boiling that ensued would have probably broken up that hard carbon foam just about as well. I mean, I still feel some hard stuff in here, but it's nothing like it was the last time I did this, where it was just like soft styrofoam basically that I was dealing with. I mean, there's some thick viscous stuff down there, but towards the bottom, but it's not like it was last time. So, okay. What to do with this now? Last time I added ice to it to help dilute the acid. I think I will do that again, just because I know if I add water to this, there's going to be a violent reaction. It's going to get really hot. There might be spattering. Ice is a better alternative. So let me go get some ice. We'll put that in there, and then once the ice melts and dilutes the acid enough, I can start adding rinse water to it and see if we can get this black carbony stuff off of the gold this time a little easier than last time. Okay, here we go with the ice. I'm gonna close that just in case there's some spattering. I don't want this acid going everywhere. Alright, good. Of course the ice doesn't want to come out. Okay. And we'll let this ice melt and dilute the acid. And then we will work on rinsing the black stuff out of the beaker and see what's in the bottom. Okay, it's been a little while. The ice is all melted. The acid is diluted. Let's see what we've got here. Besides a mess. Goodness, is a mess. There's some thick stuff down at the bottom, but I'm hoping if I just stir it up, staying on the bottom as I'm stirring. This is kind of the same problem I had last time, only on a smaller scale. I had a lot more thick stuff in here than I feel right now. But we will try. I'm going to get this out and we will try just decanting off the dirty liquid and giving it multiple rinses and see if we can clean it up without having to resort to the blender, which a lot of people said was a mistake. So I don't think it was. Okay, so let me get this out and we'll start some rinsing. This stuff has actually gotten hot. It was quite cold with all that ice in it, but probably stirring it up, and it had probably stratified. I'll bet it was more dense at the bottom and there was a lot of acid down there and less dense at the top with a lot of water. Stirring it up has probably mixed the layers, and yeah, it's gotten quite warm. So I'm going to pour this liquid off very slowly, carefully. I don't want to splash it all over the place. Plus, I don't want to mobilize any of the gold. I want it to all stay in the beaker. And yes, I know a lot of people said I was losing gold in my rinse water. So we will check the rinse water to see if there's gold in it. Okay. We're getting into the chunky stuff there, so. Got a couple gallons of tap water here. We'll just give this stuff multiple rinses. If we can break up. I wish I could describe what I'm feeling. It feels like there's blobs of jello in the bottom of this, okay? It's not nearly as stiff and viscous as the last time I did this, but there's definitely something down there that is a little on the stiff and viscous side. Let that settle for a bit. And I think it's probably going to take a whole lot of rinses until this is looking less opaque. Yeah, there's a lot of debris there on the bottom. It's starting to become visible. Huh. What am I seeing in there? I am not sure. There's some metal heat spreaders, or I guess that's probably fiberglass. But here's what we got. I don't know if you can see that. This is what I'm dealing with in the bottom of this beaker. This is the stuff I'm dealing with. The gold bond wires are mixed up in this stuff somewhere, okay? But it's not really breaking up all that nicely. There is a lot of viscous goo down there, and just plain solids. Let's see if we can get some of this opaque carbon off of it and get a better look at it. Oh, I can actually see some gold in there. I see gold wires all mixed in with this goop. A fair number of them. Of course, I could see a lot of gold in the last time I did this too. It just didn't amount to much in the end. Let me give it another rinse, and I'll see if I can give you a close-up look at what I'm seeing in here. There's a lot of fiberglass in here, okay? I know I did not peel a few of the smallest BGAs, but the fiberglass I'm seeing in here is in mats that are pretty darn big. So there must have been fiberglass still stuck on the backs of a lot of the larger BGAs, even after I peeled the bottoms off. Let me see if I can get you a close-up look at that. I don't know how well that's showing up, but there's a lot of gold bond wires tangled up in that stuff there. Alright, let me think about how to process this stuff differently than last time, so hopefully there's fewer losses. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep rinsing this stuff and get as much of this black carbon out of here as I can. Carbon tends to be porous. And what I'm thinking about doing is after I get this good and clean, I'll take this stuff straight to Aqua Regia, which was another suggestion that came up a few times in the comments. They're like, just go straight to Aqua Regia, which I don't like to do if there's a lot of carbon in here, because I know the carbon's going to soak up the pregnant Aqua Regia solution, and I'll never get all of it back out. But let me see if I can wash as much of this carbon out of here as I can. I doubt I'll be able to get all of it. Yeah, the cleaner I get this, the more gold I see. So we'll give it a few more washes. And then we'll go to Aqua Regia and see how well that works. I know somebody in the comments is going to be screaming, "Go back to the Piranha solution." Yeah, well, I don't think I'm going to do that. Well, there's a lot of gunk stuck to the side of the beaker too. My experiments lately have been rough on my beakers. I have to replace them soon. Well, it's getting cleaner. There's a gallon of water used so far. I mean, we're still getting a lot of black stuff out, but it's getting cleaner. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep rinsing until the liquid's coming off pretty clear. And then we'll go back into the fume hood and we'll make some Aqua Regia and see what happens. Okay, fortunately the water is starting to come off cleaner, which is good because my rinse bucket is just about full. Let me show you the gold. I'll cut this part from my phone in. There's quite a bit of gold down there on the bottom of the beaker. Okay. I'll cut this part from my phone in. There's quite a bit of gold down there on the bottom of the beaker. Okay. Dump off this last bit of rinse water. And we will head into the fume hood. But before we do that, I will very carefully decant off this rinse water into another bucket, and we will see what's hiding in the bottom of it. Let's pour off this rinse water and see what's in the bottom of this bucket. Did it out here on the grass because I think the probability of spillage is pretty high. Much so far. There's gold in here. It should be hanging out in this last little bit down here in the corner of the bucket. So far, I am not seeing anything. Well, okay, I take it back. I think I do see a few bond wires in there. Or is that fiberglass? No, those are bond wires. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's a few. Let me clean them up a little bit, and I will wash them into the beaker before we go into the fume hood for Aqua Regia. Because they're in the middle of a ball of black, nasty stuff. Maybe I did lose a little bit gold of my rinse water before, but I checked my rinse water then too. And I didn't see any. Maybe I just overlooked it. I don't know. Okay. Let me get this stuff in the beaker before it goes in the fume hood. And then I'll meet you in the fume hood. Alright, so the little bit of gold I saw in the bottom of the rinse bucket has been washed back into here. There wasn't that much, I'm sure just a tiny fraction of a gram, but I could see it. So it was tangled up with some of this black stuff. Now last time I did this, I ground all this stuff up in a blender first. So there were no big balls of black stuff left. So it was a lot easier to check my rinse water, and I didn't see any gold bond wires in it. I'm glad I actually saw a few poking out of the balls of black stuff that made it over in the rinse, which I was trying not to rinse any of them out of the beaker, but I did. Now, everybody's saying just go straight to Aqua Regia. My normal MO is to do a nitric acid boil on this stuff to get base metals out of it. I mean, there's probably some copper in here that didn't get digested by the sulfuric acid. There may be some other base metals too. But I'll tell you what, just to appease the mob, we will go straight to Aqua Regia. So, get some muriatic acid in there. If nothing else, this will clean up the inside of my beaker something wonderful. Alright, so we'll put about 750 milliliters. That's probably a lot more than we need, but again, it will clean up the inside of my beaker nicely. Like I said, there's probably some base metals in here. There's 6 milliliters. There's not quite 9 milliliters. There's not quite 12 milliliters. And we'll leave it at that for now. Because I'm thinking that those base metals that are left in there are going to react with the Aqua Regia first, because they're going to be more reactive than the gold. So they will probably probably chew up a lot of the reactivity of the aqua regia before the gold really even starts going into solution. But I can always add more nitric acid later. Okay, we'll let this warm up and see what happens. Okay, it's only been a couple minutes, just long enough for me to clean up some of my mess. This has really only just started warming up, and we already got some pretty vigorous bubbling in there and some orange fume accumulation. I was expecting a fairly vigorous reaction because there is visible gold in there, but there's probably also some reactive base metals in there. So yeah, I'm expecting a pretty vigorous reaction, especially once this warms up a little bit more. So we'll see.